Well, hello, my name is Taylor, and today I'm doing a little video about how to depot your original Urban Decay Naked palette. As you can see, I have a Z palette to put the shadows in because they are magnetic, and I've also kind of torn apart the palette a little bit. I just pulled, as you can see here, the back of the palette away from the part that holds the shadows, and this is definitely going to be a messy way of doing this, and if you ever want to put your shadows back in the palette, this is not the method for you. But essentially this method is basically deconstructing the palette. So as you can see, I just pulled that away from the part with the mirror. Be really careful because the mirror might have sharp edges. And I've done a couple of the shadows just to test to make sure I would know what I'm doing. But essentially you're just pulling away at the cardboard and kind of bending the back of the palette. Since my palette is so old, the glue is quite loose, so I'm able to just pry the shadows out of the palette, as you can see. I'll do it again here. I'm just bending the back of the palette. The corners come up. I'm just gently grabbing the corner of the eyeshadow pan and pulling it out of the palette. Just go really, really slow and stuff. You want to be careful not to bend the pans because that is what is going to kind of break the shadow. This can get kind of messy, but it works pretty well. There is some glue left on the back of the pans, and I'm still struggling to figure out a way to clean that off. And you can just keep going through the entire palette. Kind of the key to making this work is to deconstruct the palette by like pulling the back and the packaging away from as much of it as you can. And I also pulled kind of the front bit off. You can see it there by my wrist. And just having less packaging makes it easier to bend and easier to grab the shadows and pull it out. And that's, the main gist of what's going on here is I'm just depotting and pulling the shadows out. You might want to do this either because you are trying to depot a lot of your palettes to make custom palettes. You might do this because you're not going to keep all of the shades. You might do this just to create new combinations and do new things. I find that although I love my Naked palette and most of the shades work really well, the four that are over by the side that I'm not writing the names on, I just write the names on the side just so I know and can remember what they are. I find those four shades on the end, the four darkest shades in the palette, don't really work that well anymore. So I've kind of decided I would rather depot and like mix this with other palettes that I own instead of just keeping this palette as it is. Oops, sorry for the issues with the camera, but now I'm just going to swatch the four shades that I'm not keeping to kind of show you. You can see that they're really not coming off as dark as they should. They're really patchy, and it's, the two on the end, the two gray tone ones have always been really patchy and difficult to work with, and I think a lot of people find that. I was kind of like looking at the purple being like, oh, do I want to keep that? But kind of, I was thinking about the last time that I used that purple, I just couldn't get it to pick up on a brush. It wasn't dark enough, it wasn't doing what I needed to do, so I ended up not keeping it. But anywho, that is how you depot your Urban Decay Naked Original palette. It's super easy, but messy. Thank you so much for watching.